Engine 3, Engine 1, Ladder 1, Squad 1, Division 5, a commercial structure fire. Sigma Chi House, 500 South College Avenue. Engine 3.
We received a call shortly after 5 in the morning. We were asleep from the night before, but we were awakened by the tones. And you could tell from the dispatch information and the number of calls that they had received that this just wasn't an ordinary call. It was one of the real calls that we do get. You could actually tell that we had a fire from the dispatch.
911, what is your emergency?
Yeah, we need to get some people out to 500 South College Avenue. There's a big fire on the 3rd floor. You need to hurry up as fast as you can. 500 South College Avenue, the Sigma Chi fraternity.
What's on fire?
I don't know, the house.
Do you see smoke, sir?
Yeah, there's smoke on the 3rd floor billowing out.
I woke to him screaming, and so I was able to get out. The fire wasn't blocking my exit out of the loft, so I tried to wake other people to help me, extinguish the fire, and then I went to the bathroom to get water and try to put the fire out, but the fire spread so quickly that I was unable to do it.
In the room that was actually right next to Dominic's and John's, there was a girl who climbed out the window and was screaming help and stuff. And I ran back upstairs to my room, which was also on the 3rd level, but at the opposite in the hallway. And there was a front patio kind of deck outside our windows. And I opened up the window and yelled for her to come to my room. And I grabbed her and pulled her in. And I ran her downstairs. And then that's when Jace and I went back up. We went around to the back side of the house and ran up the back fire escape. It was so black, and the smoke was from the ceiling down to about your waist.
And when I got downstairs out in the yard and saw the fire from the room, I asked what was going on, and people kept saying, "Dominic's still up there, Dominic's still up there."
We responded, and we were the first company on the scene. We had fire showing from a 3rd floor bedroom, fire, I believe, from 2 windows. We pulled around to the rear of the structure, which was our best access to the building, and we were besieged by residents of the hall telling us that there was a victim trapped inside. Our priority at that time was to see if we had a viable victim. Firefighter Tobar and I took a hose line to the 3rd floor with assistance of the companies, and we proceeded to the fire room.
You can't see, visibility is just, it's almost non-existent. You can't hardly see the hand in front of your face. We did have flashlights, but sometimes they don't help. Could we see maybe a couple feet in front of us? And that was it. So a lot of it's feel, touch, running into something, trying to figure out what it is. And we did that as best we could. And we did get to what we thought was sleeping area, bed or something. But we couldn't see. We could tell that there was maybe a bottom and a top, like a bunk bed type of thing. And the bottom was no problem. We got in there as far as we could, no problem. But the top, couldn't tell whether the floor was out of it, if it was a bed. And we reached as far as we could. We couldn't feel anything, couldn't see anything. And that was about the time that our low air signal sounded on our air packs. So we had to radio down that we had run low on air, and we needed some relief. So that's about the time we had to leave the room. Even though you asked me how we felt when we heard that we had found somebody, I'm not sure how I felt, but I'll never forget the fact that that moment, that second that we heard come over the radio that they had found somebody.
That morning, fire engineer John Wood was in charge of hooking up the hoses and making sure there was a good water supply.
The thing I see from the outside is just chaos outside. The parking and things around campus, they don't have any regard for anything else that might happen. And the parking lot was crammed full. There was trash cans in the middle of the parking lot all over that. I actually ran over a couple of, big-sized trash, house-sized trash cans that were just thrown in the middle of the parking lot and things. We'd been there the night before for a dumpster fire, where they'd had the dumpster fire and they were just throwing things off of the balcony into the trash can. Fires like this happen all the time. We get pages all the time on Fire Network stuff where there's a fire in a university or a high school or some type of school where somebody's injured or killed. And Sure, they're going to be college students, and they're going to have fun, and they're going to party, and they're going to play pranks, but they need to separate the pranks from life safety. It's just not, I mean, it's their life, it's my life. It might be my kid's life.
Once the fire was extinguished in Dominic's room, Lieutenant Andy Anderson began the difficult job of finding out what went so terribly wrong.
When I entered the room, I found fire damage from the ceiling to the floor, which indicates that a flashover had occurred. That's when all the surfaces inside that room heat up and then ignite and create temperatures in excess of 1,400 degrees. That creates a pressure, and that pressure comes blowing out of the doorway and into the hallway. As I was investigating, I found that the fire had started in the opening of an enclosed bunk. The bunk beds were enclosed with sheetrock. The bunk beds that we know, people can roll out of the side or crawl out of the foot of the bed. The fire started in his only way out, which was a 2-foot by 2-foot opening. Once we found out where the fire began, we had to resort to interviews to figure out how it may have started. There were no forms of ignition inside the bunk area. No electrical conductors were running through that location. After interviewing the roommate, he stated that Dominic had placed a candle in that opening, and that was indeed the area of greatest fire damage.
I had gone to bed before him, but I was still up when he was climbing up to his loft, and I heard him fumbling around with something, and he told me he had a new candle that he had just bought that day, and he was going to light it, and I guess he was lighting it for scent, from basically the scent of it, and I just told him that be sure to put it out before he goes to bed, and he goes, yeah, I know.
But Dominic fell asleep that night before he could put out the candle. As he awoke to his bed engulfed in flames, his friends frantically searched for a nearby extinguisher. Not finding one, they rushed in carrying cups of water until the fire got too hot, the smoke too black, and they were forced to leave.
The fire alarm system was in working order. However, what we didn't find was fire extinguishers on the 3rd floor. We found 2 in the house that were ready to use, but they were in the lower level of the home. All other extinguishers had been removed from their stands, discharged, and we found a couple that were empty inside of closets. I spoke with Dominic's parents and gave them notification. It's one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, and nothing I ever really want to do again.
On May the 8th, 1999, we received a phone call telling us that my son, Dominic Passantino, had been killed in a fraternity fire at the Sigma Chi house at the University of Missouri in Columbia, Missouri. Every minute of every day, I miss him and want him back, and I can't have him back. I don't want another parent to have to endure the pain that I have had to endure. And so I have been researching fire safety and fire awareness, and what happened to Dominic at the Sigma Chi house in Columbia is not unique. It is happening all over the United States. There is an annual average of 1,800 fires a year since 1980. Since 1990, there have been 33 student deaths because of fires. I did not think of fire safety when Dominic went to school there. I don't think most parents do. I think as a parent, I would advise all parents. I do advise parents that I speak to now. You have got to go to the school. You look at schools, you look at cost, you look at location, you look at academics, you look at whether your child wants to go there. Sometimes you look at the athletic program, but you have to visit the school, you have to look at the safety. Go into the housing that your child is going to be living in. Is it sprinkled? If it's not sprinkled, why isn't it sprinkled? Look for placement of the fire extinguishers. Are they in glass enclosed housing? Look for placement of the smoke detectors. Do they allow built-in beds? Do they have fire drills? How often do they have fire drills? Ask to see the last fire inspection. What violations were given to them from the fire inspection? How long did it take them to correct the violations? These are things parents have got to ask, and If I had it to do over again, if the housing was not sprinkled, I would not send my child there, and I would urge every parent to do the same. We have sprinklers in restaurants, we have sprinklers in hotels, we have sprinklers in our office buildings, but we don't have sprinklers where our children are sleeping at night.
Dominic Passantino's death happened on the last day of his freshman year at the University of Missouri. He was majoring in business and enjoying college life. Since that tragic morning, his fraternity has made improvements in fire safety. Today, a joint partnership between the Columbia Fire Department and the MU campus is raising awareness of fire prevention and survival.
Our main message is obviously education. We want to educate the students. Students maybe don't always make the safest choice, and at that age group there's a lot of risky behavior that happens. So basically, mistakes are going to happen. Students might make some bad choices, and probably will. They're human. But we need to have the fire protection systems in place and functioning in order to counteract those consequences of poor decisions. It's difficult for the fire service, and that we still have the same information we need to get across, but sometimes they just don't take it to heart as this is information that they might actually need to save their life. That's a large hazard. Another hazard would be a high combustible fuel load in the individual rooms, sometimes 4 to 5 beds in a room with loft bed construction, maybe 2 couches, a large amount of clothing and books and papers, much higher combustible fuel load than in a bedroom in, say, somebody's one-family dwelling. Also, perhaps an insufficient electrical supply. A lot of these buildings were built a long time ago when each person didn't have, say, a hairdryer, a microwave, a curling iron, lots of electrical appliances.
The Columbia Fire Department makes regular inspections of fraternities and sororities on campus. The university makes inspections of dorms and university-owned buildings for fire code safety. The fire department works with each Greek house to gain compliance of fire codes. If violations are not corrected in a reasonable time, then the department may refer violations to the city prosecutor's office.
We go to the individual houses and give fire safety presentations. We'll show a video and explain how fire works in a room, a little bit about how quickly the room can go up in flames, just to and also show them what survival skills they need to know.
One of the important tools in fire safety is a sprinkler system. Sprinklers are more than 90% effective in extinguishing a fire. In addition, it's important for students to be fully aware of any fire hazards to protect not only their lives, but their friends as well.
It's the students' responsibility to pay attention when we come and give fire safety presentations and picture themselves in that situation and figure out what they might do. Well, college administrators can help by becoming informed on these issues and how important sprinkler systems and fire alarm systems are, and pushing for those to be installed in their buildings. There's nothing that protects your life and belongings quite as well as a sprinkler system. The smoke detectors, heat detectors, those help, but they just they can't quell or stop an incipient stage fire.
I just think it's something that parents just don't think of. I talk to parents all the time, and it has never occurred to them to check on fire safety in the college living quarters. We send our children away to school. We expect to get them back in 4 years, 4.5 years, ready to go out and meet the world. And I didn't get my son back.
Basically, could talk about it. I mean, you need to make sure that everybody, especially when new people move in, to explain to them situations like that can happen, and they do happen, and let them know what needs to be done so that everybody can get out safely.
And it may never happen again here in Columbia, and I hope it never does, but possibilities are very strong that it will. I mean, it's a growing, thriving campus, and every year there's new people here that have never been away from home before in their life, and every experience they're doing is new.
Dominic's friends and his family were very important to him. He loved playing football and was good at many sports. At age 19, Dominic's life was cut way too short.
I mean, I feel like he's still in my heart, and there's always times where I'll think about him, he'll pop in my head, and you know, I feel like I say hello to him or something, just knowing he's still looking over us, wishing he could be here.
I'll look over and I'll see Dominic's room, you know, door halfway open, and I've a few times walked in there and just kind of closed the door and sat down and just kind of, in my own way, kind of talked to, you know, we've got his picture up there, and kind of talked to him in my own way, and just think about, you know, the times that I enjoyed with him.
It's his smile and his definitely, I mean, he literally could light up a room with smile. And another thing that all the girls, literally all the girls loved him. I mean, it was almost sickening how all the girls loved him. But it was always nice because being roommates with him, because he had girls calling all the time for him. But you know, that's usually kind of the fun memories I have about him, is the fact that phone was always ringing off the hook, and they were always for him.
And Dominic was full of life. He enjoyed every day. He could walk into a room and he could capture the room. He never met a stranger, never, I don't think, had an enemy. He was full of love. He was full of compassion, giving. He was a wonderful friend. I miss the calls, the "Hi, Mom, how are you?" I want him to walk back in the door.
In my heart, you live on, always there, never gone. Precious child, you left too soon.